that's a big thing that's going on. Like I said, through the Midwest, definitely in Texas. Texas has been just booming with install. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. In addition to that, there are a lot of like manufacturing plants that are, that are getting into the same idea because there's a couple areas where
This is
because
outside of California you're talking about, right?
outside of
Manufacturing
California.
outside of California. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Some of these, okay, so for instance, in Texas, even if let's look at the really small scale. So in Texas, on the residential side,
Hmm.
you can get a pretty good cent per kilowatt hour when you're pushing power back to the grid. So because of that, um,
Is that like more similar to the early NEM 1.0 rules of California, where you would essentially get credited back at your highest consumption rate, no matter what time you produced, as long as you fed it back into the grid, they would start deducting the, or they would start crediting you for everything you exported at the highest consumption rate that was
oh
reflected
yeah,
on your bill. And
oh yeah,
I did that 10 years ago on my first solar installation on my previous home. I got a 3.5 year payback on a
oh yeah.
really
It's it.
nice solar system. That was just amazing deal. Yeah.
That's it. Yep. So Texas
So
is
is Texas
similar.
in that stage right now? Like, because
I
I think
wouldn't
that
say
makes
it's that
sense.
good.
I would say that makes sense until the grid is like 5% penetrated. And I think that was when California transitioned to NAM 2.0. And once they went past like 12% or 10% of homes
Mhm,
having solar, then they had to go to NAM 3 for good reason. You can't blame them
mhm.
because it
Yeah,
just like we saw the duck curve. They don't need energy in the middle of the day anymore, and it becomes a
yeah,
problem actually.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so yeah.
And and right now, so like this past year in Texas, there's a couple different companies that you can basically get on with. Like Chariot Energy is one of them,
Mhm.
where you can sell back that power. Now it's not necessarily one to one, but it's like, you know, you're gonna laugh at these numbers because the kilowatt cent or the cent per kilowatt is so low. But so you buy it at like 13, I can sell it back at 8. You know,
Okay. I mean,
that's not
with
bad
Texas,
though. That's not
yeah,
bad.
yeah,
So
with Texas Sun, and also with Texas installation prices, which are way lower than California. And don't ask me why. I'll go on for half an hour on that. And I think that the only reason is because consumers are not educated enough, and the margins get wasted in the value chain. Not wasted,
mhm.
but it just like gets nicely dispersed between all the middlemen,
Oh yeah,
and then that's why we see $2.25 per watt prices in Florida and Texas, and $4 prices per watt in California, still to this day,
that's
when the whole system costs like less than a buck. you
that's
know?
exactly right. That's
Yeah,
exactly right. Yeah. So
yeah.
there's still, I guess what I'm getting at is there's still areas where you can have a quick payback
Yeah,
by, pushing power to the grid. And those areas, they're not gonna, like you said, they're not gonna stay there forever. It's just not how it's gonna pan out, in my opinion. And
yeah,
that's when batteries are gonna come even more heavy. But
yeah,
there's also incentives for people that, just don't want to have a loss of power, right? And we see that as well. But I mean, there's still money to be made for sure. And then there's also those kind of more, I don't want to call them one-offs because there's a lot of them, but more one-offs that are like the data centers, right?
yeah.
That are there have been times where utilities basically tell them, hey, it's going to be 2 years before I'll let you interconnect,
Connect.
right?
Yeah,
And they're a data center, they're trying to mine, for Bitcoin or whatever, right?
yeah,
It's like I
yeah,
need to I need to be working right now and making my money.
yeah, yeah,
So for those types of scenarios, they'll have, massive PV fields put in and then a crap ton of batteries put in.
yeah.
So that way they can
And
continue
this is
going.
already happening right now, is what you're
Oh
saying.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Already happening, been happening. Those ones are interesting though, because
Are they powering those data centers like purely on solar plus battery and
oh
kind
yeah.
of almost off grid in an off grid manner?
Completely off grid, completely off
Wow.
grid. waiting for interconnection to happen. Like,
But
you
they're
know,
still mining in the meantime.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Think about
Yeah.
it. You start mining, and
Yeah, I mean,
what's
look,
Bitcoin now? Yeah,
I did the
yeah,
math on a simple residential system, like $2 per watt, which I think is very reasonable, even though it doesn't
mhm,
happen in most scenarios. 90% of scenarios don't hit $2 a watt PV array pricing. And I assumed a $400 per kilowatt hour battery and
mhm.
only assumed 85% usage, 15% going to zero, like zero
Yep,
export fee or loss or whatever. And you amortize that over 20 years, you're still getting 6, 7 cents electricity with no cost of financing. Okay, add a 5, 6% cost of financing, double it. You're still at 13 cents electricity, which is lower than the American average for residential we're talking about.
yeah,
Obviously, if you're doing this at utility scale, the battery price is going to be lower. The PVRA system price is going to be, I mean, they're going to be about half. So all these numbers divided by half, you can make them work. There's no
yeah.
doubt.
Exactly, exactly. And that's the thing. I think that there's still incentives out there for people to, to install these. I think everybody, everybody's a little bit worried with the tariffs and stuff coming in, but to be honest with you, I don't think that they're gonna do that much. I really don't.
Yeah.
Um, and the more worrisome thing would be if subsidies are taken away, but I don't think that that can happen either because you look
Like
at
the
oil.
ITC. I mean,
Yeah,
ITC is
like
really, I don't think the ITC is going to go away.
that I don't either. I mean, you look at
Yeah.
it, I mean, heck, oil has been subsidized for how long? You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that some people are saying they're a little worried and whatnot right now, which is actually
Mhm.
not bad because it'll for the short term, it'll bring an influx in orders because people
Yeah.
are like, oh, I want to get things in, before some tariffs hit and whatnot. Um, but for us, I mean, it's really not
Yeah.
going to do that much. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Going
anyway,
back to the
that's what I see
application
as far as the
use
overall.
cases, going back to the application use cases, if I can pick your brain. So
Hmm.
you talked
Hmm.
about the data miners. What about like multifamily buildings or EV chargers coupled with buildings or
Yep.
standalone EV charging stations? I mean, obviously, Tesla's got a huge, uh, you know, gas station business inside it. Most people don't realize it. That's that they're probably doing 50% of the job outside of homes, let's
Yeah.
say. But obviously, they're not the only brand that's doing that. And
Yeah.
so, do you see any growth in business there and lots of
100%.
demand?
100%. Yeah. So actually, funny enough, our EMS partner, Alexity, um, working with them is great because they also have partnerships with like ChargePoint and a couple of those other big EV
Yeah,
chargers. So we can, so say you have a building and you want to throw in a couple EV chargers there. We can hook our system up and monitor that EV station as well, and
yeah,
we can basically smart monitor it to make it as efficient as possible in conjunction with our battery. So, if it's a high demand time, right, and we can still have some more output from our battery, then we can, help shed that EV charging load off as well, and stuff like that,
so
right?
you
But
guys are doing this already in certain
yes,
geographies?
yeah,
Wow.
oh yeah,
Can you
oh
tell
yeah.
me what states you see this? And this happens in like a multifamily apartment setting or a
So
business
actually,
environment?
are a
Yeah.
big one, because
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have some say you
Oh,
have a
for
car
like
dealership, right?
fleets of vans or things like that.
Oh yeah. Now those ones are even better because they get into the
Yeah.
larger scale equipment. But
Yeah.
for the small for the staying on the CNI, say you have like a dealership or something like that. Most of them now have some EV chargers because everybody's selling electric cars, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So we'll bundle the EV side into well, we won't sell the EV charger, but we'll
Mhm.
essentially bundle the monitoring and the control into the package. And then we can provide that for you. And then we have views of everything, right? From EV, HVAC, PV, our best unit, and we can optimize the
Yeah. Yeah.
essentially the entire system, right? So
Right.
we've done that. Yeah, we've done, actually, I was just in California last week, or the week before maybe, working on that exact scenario. That exact
Well,
scenario.
for a car dealership.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That exact
That's nice.
scenario. So,
Wow.
but there are the instances where it's somebody wants to put in, 20 chargers or something at this gas station, and then they want to use a battery. So what they'll do is they'll charge that battery up on off-peak hours, right, when the electricity is cheapest, and then they'll
Yeah.
use that battery, to help
Totally.
discharge whenever those are being used the most. So, and that's a really common application. We see, I would say that we see, people asking for that pretty frequently. There's some really cool ones out there too, where um, it's like maybe they have a large piece of machinery that takes a lot of power, and they want to use a battery for that as well. That kind of stuff is I'd say pretty common. And really, in that type of scenario, it's just about the battery covering the load of the vehicle. So, I mean, that cent difference, or the couple cents difference in when you take the power in versus when you push the power out, becomes big bucks, right?
Yeah.
So,
No doubt. Yeah. So yeah, like we said, there's going to be a lot of optimization opportunities at a micro level,
yep.
and we're going to need these VP of energy optimization in many. And
That's
they will be
exactly right.
using systems like the ones that you're providing.
Yeah.
So as we near the end of our conversation here, Jason, any parting words or comments or wishes from the universe for what you'd like to see happen as we enter a new administration, and talked about
Definitely.
tariffs and China, US. You obviously work for a Chinese company too, so
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you know, any last thoughts that you want to share?
You know, man, I mean, I love working for CPS. They're fantastic. The only downside of working for a China company is those 1 a.m. meetings every once in a while.
Yeah.
No, they're not. That's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah.
No, it's fantastic, and I'd say the only wish that I have, for the future moving on is, and it's already kind of been happening over the past few years, is that people learn more and educate themselves on some of these benefits. I think that a lot of people now know of solar and of batteries, right? Solar more so than batteries. But I think a lot of people are still scared of them. I mean, you have
Yeah.
some horror stories, right? Like LG back in the
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
we're in such a better place now as far as the technology goes and what we can do with that technology. And I would just encourage people to educate themselves. And if they have any questions at all, please feel free, reach out to me. My email is jason.smith@chintpower.com. The Jason has a Y in it, so JAYSON. Please reach out to me, and I can help answer any questions that you have regarding the PV side or the BESS side, and hopefully show you that the systems are not only they're safe and they're not scary, but they can also provide you with a little bit more money in your pocket if you do it right. So, yeah,
Jason Smith, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and wisdom in this area. Thanks again, and hope to repeat this in due time.
definitely. We'll have another one where we dig a little bit more into the technical stuff.
Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, have a good one.
Thanks.